They say time heals all wounds, but what if the scars keep getting ripped open over and over again? My name's Jake, and 2 years ago, my wife left me for the guy living next door. Yeah, you heard that right. This isn't just a story about betrayal. It's about what happens when the person who shattered your world still shares custody of your kids. I remember the night everything came crashing down. It was a Thursday, one of those quiet evenings where the kids were finally asleep and the house was wrapped in that rare kind of peace you learn to cherish as a parent. I was folding laundry when I saw her phone light up on the kitchen counter. The name on the screen? Ryan M., our neighbor, our married neighbor. It wasn't suspicion that made me check the message. It was instinct, something deep in my gut that whispered, look. And I did. Man, I wish I hadn't. That single message opened a floodgate. Months of sneaking around, secret meetups, inside jokes, and hotel receipts, all stored neatly in a hidden folder on her phone. They had been having an affair for almost a whole year of my life where I was smiling at this man over the fence, inviting him to barbecues, handing him a beer while our kids played in the yard together. What kind of man does that? What kind of woman? We had been married for 10 years. Her name was Elena, and I thought we had a good thing going, or at least something worth holding on to. We weren't perfect. What couple is? But I loved her. I gave her everything I had, and suddenly none of it mattered anymore. 1 year of deceit unraveled everything we built together. The next morning, I confronted her. She didn't deny it. She didn't even look surprised. I didn't want to hurt you, she said. Can someone explain to me how you don't want to hurt someone, yet still manage to carve them open with a betrayal like that? Our kids, Lily's and Mason, were 5 and 8, too young to understand what was going on, but not too young to feel it. The tension, the tears, the moving boxes. Kids feel all of it, even when you try to shield them. Why do the courts think a man who tears apart a family deserves to be around the kids from that family? How do you co-parent with someone who blew your life apart like it was nothing? The custody ruling didn't feel like justice. Split 50-50. That meant I had to accept that Ryan, the man who helped break my home, would now be a regular presence in my children's lives. Birthday parties, school plays, Sunday dinners. His voice in their ears, his face in their memories. It's been 2 years since that day, but the wound is still raw. Every time I see Mason mimic something Ryan said, or Lily casually mention Mom and Ryan took us to the zoo, it burns, not just because of jealousy, but because I worry. What are they learning? What kind of example is being set for them? What does a 5-year-old believe when the man who helped tear her family apart is now painting her room pink and making pancakes on Saturdays? How do you teach your kids right from wrong when their mother is rewriting the rules? It's a cruel irony. I've done everything I can to be the stable one, the calm one, the steady presence in their lives. But sometimes, late at night, I wonder, do they even know who really tried to hold this family together? Have you ever had to smile through tears for the sake of your children, knowing they're hugging the very person who tore your world apart? Because I have, and it never gets easier. The hardest part, honestly, isn't the betrayal anymore. It's what comes after, the slow, grinding, daily reality of trying to rebuild while someone else walks around like they never shattered anything. In the early days after the split, I kept thinking the anger would fade, that maybe if I focused on my kids, threw myself into work, leaned on family and friends, I could move forward without dragging the bitterness behind me like a shadow. But bitterness doesn't just let go because you ask it to, especially not when you see the cause of it every other week, waving cheerfully as he picks your kids up from your ex-wife's driveway. It's like being asked to play nice with the guy who set your house on fire, just because he's now helping repaint the walls. I tried. God knows I tried to take the high road. I bit my tongue at drop-offs. I smiled through clenched teeth when Mason told me Ryan helped him fix his bike. I nodded politely when Lily told me they all made gingerbread cookies together. But something inside me snapped the day Lily asked, "Daddy, why don't you like Ryan?" It caught me off guard. I was washing dishes. I froze, my hand in the suds, gripping a sponge like it could ground me. She was sitting at the kitchen table drawing, her legs swinging off the chair. I didn't know what to say. What could I say? How do you explain betrayal to a 5-year-old? I told her he wasn't my favorite person and left it at that. But that moment stuck with me because the truth is I don't like him. I resent the hell out of him. And it's not just because, see, he stole my wife. It's because he inserted himself into a family he helped break. He gets the easy version of fatherhood, picking them up for outings, laughing through movie nights, baking cookies for fun. I get the homework struggles, the doctor visits, the nights Mason has nightmares and won't say why. And maybe that's why sometimes when I'm talking about Ryan with friends or venting after a rough day, I slip. I say things I shouldn't. I call him names. Not proud of it, but it happens. Once or twice, I think the kids were in the next room. I didn't think they were listening. I didn't think those words would travel back. But they did. Last week, I got a voicemail from Elena. Her voice was calm, but the words were sharp. She said one of the kids told her I called Ryan something bad. She didn't say which one, but I could tell it hit a nerve. She said I was setting a bad example, teaching them hate. She said I needed to move on and grow up. And maybe she's right, or maybe she just doesn't get it, what it feels like to be forced into proximity with the person who replaced you in your own family photo. How am I supposed to just move on when the past keeps showing up with a smile at my front door? Is it wrong to feel this angry? Is it wrong to say out loud what most people only think? I never meant to drag my kids into my pain, but it leaks out. Grief has a way of showing up where you least expect it. Do you know what it's like to be civil to someone you want to scream at just because little eyes are watching? Because I do. And every day I'm still learning how to be the bigger person, even when it feels like the world got smaller. I didn't always used to be this angry. There was a time when I believed in patience, in calm conversations, in choosing my words carefully. But after 2 years of biting my tongue, pretending to be okay for the sake of my kids, sometimes the pain just slips through the cracks. And it usually comes out when I'm alone, when the silence in the house feels heavier than it should. That's the part people don't see. They don't see me cleaning up cereal spills at 6 a.m. or coaching Mason through math homework while he fights back tears, or brushing Lily's hair and trying not to cry because she looks so much like her mother when she was younger. They don't see the effort it takes to smile at your children and say, "It's okay, honey," when it very much isn't. The few times I've let something slip, an offhand insult, a muttered comment about Ryan, it wasn't calculated. It was raw. It was real. I didn't plan for them to hear it. I didn't mean for it to reach them. But when pain lives in your chest for long enough, it doesn't ask permission before it speaks. When I got that voicemail from Elena, telling me how unacceptable it was, how I needed to grow up, it hurt more than I expected. Not just because she was right in a way, but because she got to be the one scolding me like she hadn't broken every promise we ever made. Why do I always end up the one apologizing? Who gets to decide who's the villain in a story like this? I know the moment that likely caused all this. It happened the week before. Mason had scraped his knee at school, and when I picked him up, he mentioned Ryan had told him to toughen up. I laughed bitterly, without even thinking, and muttered something like, "Yeah, well, Ryan's a joke." It just came out. Mason didn't say anything, but now I wonder if that moment stuck with him. Do they understand what I meant? Or do they just hear that their dad is angry at someone they're being told is a good person? How do you explain to your kids that the people they care about have hurt you in ways they can't possibly comprehend? That's the tightrope I walk every single day, balancing what's honest with what's appropriate, trying to protect my children's innocence, even while mine was stolen in a single betrayal. It's easy for others to pass judgment. Easy to say, just be the bigger person. But how do you do that when you're still climbing out of the hole someone else threw you into? How do you stop being bitter when the consequences of someone else's choices became your burden to carry? I've started catching myself more lately, biting back the comments, swallowing the words that taste like poison. But there are days where I wonder, if I keep holding this in, where does it all go? And when my kids are older, when they start asking deeper questions, what do I say? Do I lie to protect their image of their mother? Or do I risk showing them the truth, cracks and all? Being a parent after betrayal is like walking through fire and pretending you don't feel the heat. But I keep going, for them. Because if I don't, who will? There's this moment that keeps replaying in my head, something that shouldn't matter as much as it does, but for some reason it won't let go of me. It was during one of those handoffs, where you meet in the driveway, fake a smile, and pretend you're not dying inside. Ryan had come along with Elena to pick up the kids, and Mason ran out the door holding the art project he made at school. "Look, Ryan, I made this," he shouted, skipping right past me. Ryan bent down, admired the glitter-glued mess like it was a Picasso, and gave him a high five. Elena looked proud. I just stood there, invisible. It was such a small thing, but it crushed me. Do you know what it feels like to become the background character in your own children's lives? I get the struggles, the tantrums, the "I don't want to eat that" dinners. He gets the praise, the fun, the Instagram-worthy moments. And no matter how hard I try, it's like he's worming his way into something sacred that was never supposed to include him. People always say, kids are resilient, but no one talks about what that resilience costs them or us. They adapt to a new normal, not because it's healthy, but because they have no choice. And in the process, we all start performing. I smile so they don't see the sadness. I laugh at their jokes even when I'm running on 3 hours of sleep and half a heart. And I swallow the anger that bubbles up every time Ryan's name comes up in a story that starts with, "Guess what we did at Mom's Wow." I'm not mad that they like him. That's not it. Deep down, I want them to be treated well when they're not with me. But I hate that the man who helped destroy our family gets to play the role of fun stepdad while I'm still trying to figure out how to stop waking up angry. When did the man who caused the storm get to hold the umbrella? A mutual friend, Wapahin, someone I once trusted, reached out recently after hearing Elena's side of things. She said I needed to be careful about what I say around the kids, that I was creating a toxic environment. That word stuck with me. Toxic. Is telling the truth toxic? Is feeling hurt toxic? Or is the real problem that my pain makes people uncomfortable? Why is it always the person who gets betrayed that has to bend over backward to keep the peace? I'm not out here poisoning my kids against their mom. I don't sit them down and dump my heartache on their tiny shoulders. But I'm human, and sometimes the hurt slips through. Sometimes I forget that even when I'm alone with my thoughts, little ears are always listening. I've started going to therapy. Yeah, it took me a while. I thought I could tough it out on my own. But I'm realizing that trying to be strong without healing first just builds walls between me and the people I love. I don't want to be the bitter dad. I want to be the dad who shows them how to handle pain without letting it define you. And that starts with owning my part, even the parts that hurt to admit. Because maybe being the bigger person doesn't mean pretending you're not in pain. Maybe it just means choosing not to let it turn you into someone you're not. The other night, Mason crawled into bed with me after a nightmare. He didn't say much, just curled up next to me and held my hand like he used to when he was smaller. I stayed awake long after he drifted off, staring at the ceiling, listening to the soft sound of his breathing. That's the part no one sees. Not the judges, not the therapists, not even Elena. The quiet moments where I'm reminded exactly why I keep fighting to hold it together. Because no matter what's happened, no matter how much anger still lingers or how many times I've failed, I'm still their dad. That hasn't changed, and maybe that's the point. Maybe it's not about being the perfect parent. Maybe it's just about showing up every day, even when it hurts, even when you're exhausted, even when you're afraid you're doing it all wrong. I've been thinking a lot about what kind of man I want Mason to grow up to be, what kind of woman I want Lily to become. Not just in terms of what they do with their lives, but how they handle the messy parts, the disappointments, the heartbreaks, the betrayals. Because if there's one thing I've learned, it's this: life isn't fair. People don't always do the right thing. Sometimes the people you love the most are the ones who hurt you the deepest. So what do you do with that? Who do you become when forgiveness feels impossible? For a long time, I thought being strong meant pretending I wasn't affected. That the best way to move forward was to stay silent, push through, and lock away the pain. But now I realize strength is something else entirely. Strength is acknowledging the pain and choosing to act with grace anyway. Strength is knowing your kids might never fully understand what you went through and being okay with that because you protected their innocence, even when it came at the cost of your own. Do I regret the things I said in anger? Yeah, I do. I hate the thought of Mason or Lily repeating something they heard me mutter in a bitter moment. I never wanted to be that dad, the one who poisoned the well, the one whose pain spilled over into his parenting. But I'm learning. And if there's one thing I want to teach my kids, it's that growth is possible, even after the deepest kind of hurt. Elena and Ryan aren't going anywhere. That's the reality. I can't control who she chooses to love or who she brings into their lives. But I can control who I am in their story. So I've stopped thinking about this as a war. There's no prize for winning here. No finish line where one of us gets to stand tall while the other falls. The only thing that matters now is the kind of father I continue to be, and whether my kids feel safe, loved, and supported every time they're with me. Because when all is said and done, they won't remember every word I said. They won't replay every angry voicemail or every awkward handoff in the driveway. They'll remember how I made them feel. So now when I feel that old bitterness start to rise, I ask myself, what do I want them to remember? Who do I want to be? And the answer is always the same. I want to be their anchor, even in the storm. What would you do if you were in Jake's shoes? If the person you loved betrayed you and the one who helped break your family became a regular face in your children's lives? Could you stay calm? Could you still be the bigger person? Jake is trying every single day. If his story moved you, let him know he's not alone. Hit the like button so he sees your support. And subscribe to the channel if you believe in sharing real, raw stories that matter. Sometimes just knowing someone's listening can be the lifeline a broken heart needs to keep going.